In every age, the unseen has shaped the seen. Not merely whispers of superstition or candlelit rites, but in the quiet architecture of belief that undergirds politics, art, science, and rebellion. This week, the occult speaks through 5 stories, each a thread in a tapestry stretching from legislative chambers to city streets, from TikTok feeds to haunted parlors, from academic presses to the hearths of working witches. Together, they reveal how the magical is not retreating from modernity, it is adapting to it, shaping it, and in some cases, challenging it.
Imagine a parliament floor. The air is thick with procedural formality, except today, the debate is not about tariffs or infrastructure. It is about spirits.
In Pakistan's Senate, a bill advances that would criminalize seer, what Westerners may call black magic. Convictions would carry up to 7 years in prison and fines exceeding $3,500 USD. To some lawmakers, this is a moral purge. To others, it is an attempt to control an unruly undercurrent of belief. Either way, it is not just legislation. It is a declaration of metaphysical policy.
To understand the gravity, we must remember Pakistan's folk magic is not a marginal practice. It is a palimpsest of cultures and centuries.
Pre-Islamic animism, where stones, rivers, and trees were not inert, but inhabited, merged with the devotional ecstasies of Sufi mystics and the numerological systems of Hindu and Persian astrologers. This synthesis produced a living spiritual technology. Tawiz amulets for protection, herbal remedies laced with Quranic verses, and planetary talismans drawn from medieval astrology. It is a system both pragmatic and poetic, woven into the daily lives of millions.
And yet the line between permitted healing and forbidden magic has always been razor thin. Islamic jurisprudence hinges on niyyah, intention. To pray for divine help is lawful. To invoke jinn or celestial forces risks heresy. When such distinctions become enshrined in law, enforcement often devolves into selective prosecution.
The irony? Elite circles quietly court the same practices the state seeks to ban. Former Prime Minister Imran Khan's marriage to Bushri Bibi, a spiritual advisor known for her Rouhani work, was not framed as scandal but as intrigue. When those in power consult astrologers while criminalizing similar acts among the poor, we see not purification, but class stratification in spiritual law.
Globally, Pakistan's crackdown reflects a larger pattern, one playing out wherever governments attempt to bring digital age spirituality under control. As the physical practice of magic becomes increasingly risky, many practitioners have migrated online. Pakistani astrologers now broadcast from the safety of the diaspora, TikTok palmists read hands through video calls, and WhatsApp tarot readers serve clients back home. Even the pur tradition, once inseparable from the charged presence of the saint, has adapted to the pixel, with blessings now streaming through Zoom. Yet, magic is a difficult thing to police. It leaves no contraband to seize, no clear digital fingerprints. Prosecution is likely to remain selective, driven less by systematic detection than by public complaints or the high visibility of certain practitioners. And as restrictions harden, spiritual tourism may simply shift across the border. India's thriving Jyotish astrology scene, protected under a different religious and legal framework, offers a welcoming alternative. On the subcontinent, after all, the great occult traditions predate and often disregard modern political boundaries. In the ancient Near East, rulers knew that to control ritual was to control power. Pakistan's new law is not just about crime, it is about defining in the eyes of the state who may speak with the unseen. Some people buy houses for the view. Comedian Matt Rife has purchased one for its ghosts.
This is not just any property. It is the Connecticut home and occult museum of Ed and Lorraine Warren, famed and sometimes controversial American paranormal investigators. Here in a locked glass case sits the original Annabelle doll, whose myth was metastasized across horror cinema and internet folklore. With this purchase, Rife has stepped into a role somewhere between museum curator and zookeeper of the paranormal.
The Warrens' legacy is less about proving the supernatural than about codifying it into a distinctly American demonology. Ed's self-taught demonological practice and Lorraine's claimed clairvoyance produced over 10,000 case files, suburban possession narratives, poltergeists in tract housing, Cold War-era fears refracted through spiritual warfare. They made Catholic exorcism rituals intelligible to Protestant audiences, blending them with folk magic in a hybrid that was portable, repeatable, and most importantly, cinematic.
Annabelle, meanwhile, is more than a prop. Occultists might call her an egregore, a thought form sustained by collective belief. The original Raggedy Ann doll may or may not be haunted, but decades of film, social media, and urban legend have rendered her spiritually potent regardless.
Every retelling feeds her. Now the museum's artifacts, allegedly cursed mirrors, possessed musical instruments, become Rife's inheritance. But commodifying such objects is not without peril. In magical tradition, potent artifacts require ongoing care, cleansing rites, containment circles, negotiated relationships with resident spirits. The Warrens' protocol leaned Catholic, holy water, blessings, locked cases. But Rife's plans for overnight Airbnb-style stays risk turning containment into spectacle.
This is where entertainment collides with metaphysics. If the entities believed to inhabit these objects have agency, does profit sharing with them count as consent? If a spirit is bound for eternity, can it be treated as an attraction?
Such questions mark the uneasy terrain where the occult meets commercial tourism. What Rife is doing is part of a broader shift in supernatural entertainment, one that moves well beyond the old model of candlelit ghost tours. Audiences now crave immersive experiences, the chance not just to hear about a haunting, but to sleep under the same roof as it. In this landscape, celebrities have begun to act as spiritual gatekeepers, curating and reframing esoteric culture for mass consumption. And in an era where artificial intelligence can conjure convincing hoaxes in seconds, authenticity itself has become a commodity. Objects with documented provenance, like those in the Warren collection, carry a kind of market and cultural value that no fabricated scare can replicate. The Warrens turned their investigations into a mythology. Rife is turning that mythology into a marketplace. In ancient India, Jyotish Vedic astrology was the domain of court advisors and temple scholars. In 2025, it is also the domain of Astro Parduman's 90 million social media followers.
His receipt of India's National Creator Award marks a profound shift, the state recognizing spiritual content creation as cultural achievement. Parduman has transformed astrology from elite consultation into mass entertainment without entirely severing it from its roots. Traditional Jyotish is not for the mathematically faint of heart. It demands fluency in Sanskrit astrological texts, mastery of complex planetary period or dasha systems, and the interpretive subtlety to read lunar mansions or nakshatra patterns. Parduman distills these into algorithm-ready formats: 60-second forecasts, zodiac red flag lists, auspicious timing alerts.
This is not simplification so much as translation, a reframing of celestial mechanics for the attention economy. The significance is not just technological but political. Where Pakistan criminalizes certain magical practices, India is awarding them. Parduman's rise reflects an ecosystem where spiritual entrepreneurship can be state-sanctioned, monetized, and globally exported. His model prefigures developments across the spiritual influencer, economy, parasocial guru-disciple relationships replacing years-long initiation, AI-generated natal chart analysis, freeing human astrologers for emotional guidance, and real-time planetary alerts, pinging to smartphones like weather updates.
The risk? Disconnection from the sadhana, the disciplined spiritual cultivation the tradition holds is essential to genuine insight. The question is whether astrology can survive digitization without losing its soul.
If the archetype of the witch once belonged to forest clearings and moonlit meadows, Chicago's witches are proving that magic can flourish between high-rises and traffic lights.
The city's occult economy is a study in adaptation. Shops like Mystic Moon Readings sell 3-day custom spells and offer tarot sessions by appointment. The Malloway brothers travel to Cornwall to reconnect with British traditional witchcraft, then turn the pilgrimage into Instagram content.
This is not new in spirit. Chicago hosts the Occult Bookstore, America's oldest continuous occult shop, founded in 1918. But its recent transformation into a nonprofit spiritual society signals a shift from purely commercial to explicitly communal models.
Urban witchcraft works with a different palette than rural magic. It trades wild herbs for botanicas in Latino neighborhoods, sacred groves for rented ritual spaces, and weather lore for an intuitive reading of urban energy flows. In this setting, magical work often fuses with activism. Reproductive rights spells, environmental protection rituals, and community-based mutual aid.
Chicago's magical marketplace moves along three distinct yet interwoven currents. Some practitioners operate as spiritual consultants, crafting bespoke rituals and spell work tailored to the needs of individual clients. Others focus on empowerment through education, offering workshops, classes, and publications that teach people to weave their own magic rather than rely solely on a practitioner's hand. And layered through it all is a hybrid approach born of the pandemic years, where Zoom covens, live-streamed rituals, and mail-order spell kits coexist seamlessly with in-person gatherings and brick-and-mortar shops.
Here, magic is not escapist, it is civic. Chicago's witches are not withdrawing from society, but weaving enchantment into its most urgent struggles.
Glastonbury has long been England's unofficial pagan capital, a place where myth and tourism entwine. It is here that Liz Williams, witch and bookseller, has compiled a compendium of the occult, a work that straddles popular accessibility and scholarly ambition.
Her approach recalls the Renaissance Cabinet of Curiosities, a collection where fossil, relic, and magical tools sit side by side, not to collapse categories but to reveal their shared mystery. Her 65 essays cover divination, secret societies, magical history, presented not as isolated oddities, but as interconnected nodes in humanity's spiritual experimentation. Illustration is central. Where historical grimoires relied on dense, initiatory text, Williams' compendium uses imagery to make arcane material legible to the uninitiated. This makes the occult coffee table friendly, a conversation starter rather than a guarded manuscript.
The risk is in condensation. Legends repeated without context, a Eurocentric framing that omits global magical traditions. Yet, the book also embodies a larger moment, an independent publishing boom in occult literature, from artisanal limited editions to academic monographs.
In parallel, universities are now hosting exorcism conferences, digitizing rare grimoires, and analyzing TikTok witchcraft as serious cultural data. Williams' work sits in this fertile overlap between practitioner authenticity and academic legitimacy, helping bring occult study into the mainstream without entirely stripping it of its shadows. From Pakistan Senate to Connecticut's haunted house tours, from Indian astrology influencers to Chicago's activist witches, the occult is negotiating the same tensions as every other cultural form. Authenticity versus commodification, local roots versus global reach, tradition versus technological reinvention. The magical is not disappearing, it is reformatting itself. Sometimes for protection, sometimes for profit, sometimes for power. And as long as human beings hunger for meaning, mystery, and mastery over the unseen, these negotiations will continue. Legislated in parliaments, streamed on smartphones, whispered in marketplaces, and recorded in the pages of both grimoires and history books.